if you want to be very successful in your life, in your career, in your business, you need to be an extremely skilled communicator, and you need to be an extremely skilled writer, or at least have someone with you who can help you with your writing. Now, what will make your writing the most effective, the most compelling, the most engaging? It is description, and description is not reserved to fiction writing. It's not reserved to poetry. It's not reserved to the artistic types of writing. Description is everything in writing, whether it be marketing copy that you're writing for your business, whether it be in a cover letter that you're writing for a new job opportunity, whether it be in a letter you write to your parents to say that you're thankful for your education, whether it be in a social media post where you're pouring your heart out about a cause that you hold dear. Description is going to make your writing effective, and then your writing is going to make you successful. Description is simply about showing visual elements so that people can picture themselves in your piece of writing. And the best way to create description, you can't force description. You have to really know your audience. And like I say to a lot of clients, you often are your own audience, or at least you wear your audience way back. Your older version of yourself is your audience, because you're teaching that person things that you now know that you wish you knew back then. But here's the thing, if you know your audience, if you know what they relate to, the pains they have, the dreams they hold dear, and the aesthetics that they enjoy, then you are able to create description that will actually speak to them and, you know, light their heart on fire. And what you want to do is to create the imagery so that people feel as though they are the hero in the story that you are telling. And the way you do that is by showing them the things that they can see. And again, it's a matter of knowing your audience. But if I'm writing about, let's say, I'm writing about, this is an example that I'm making up, by the way, because I never really had a real corporate job. But let's say I'm writing about how I hated my corporate job, then I might talk about the boardrooms with the coffee cups, and, you know, I'll describe, you know, the environment. I'll talk about the glass windows and the coffee machine at the other end of the room, and the marketing consultant walking in to give a presentation on the PowerPoint to all the executives. And so by now you're starting to imagine, and you've probably been in that situation if you're my ideal reader, if I'm writing this piece. And so you have to think about, okay, well, is that scene that I'm going to paint for the reader, is this something that they have seen for themselves? Is it something that they can imagine? And if I put these readers into that scene, how are they going to feel? And I have to align this with what it is that I actually want my readers to feel. Because if we're writing correctly, we are going to make people feel something. But if we're not deliberate about it, we don't control what people are going to feel. And the whole point of writing is to control how people think and feel, not necessarily in a bad way, but to offer a perspective, to tell a story, to describe how something works. And so once we put these readers into this room, into this situation, how are they going to feel, and what do I use to make them feel that which I want them to feel? And perhaps I talk about how luxurious everything is in that boardroom, and it reminds you of how much money you were making. How much money you were helping your boss make, but you weren't actually making the amount of income that you deserved. And maybe that's what you're writing about, but you want to be putting your reader inside the story. They should be the hero through the description, through the imagery. Now, another element to this is that you want to be using nouns and verbs that are crisp and fresh and that, you know, make people understand what is happening. If you rush into a room, it's very different than running to the room or whatever it might be. If you feel like you were mentally exhausted, it's different than you were fatigued or any other verb like that. So you want to be always using words that have a strong meaning, that have a strong connotation. And the reality is there's a word for every single nuance. And you might not realize this, but the English language has more words than most other languages. It's just that we don't use them as much. There's about, I think, 500,000 words that are used or that can be used in the English language, but we only use a proportion of that. Now, if you use a synonym or a thesaurus or a synonym dictionary, then you are able, and there are resources that I recommend, notably Antidote, which is a software that has a dictionary, and it helps you with spell check as well, but it shows you the synonym, and so it can help you find the most fresh, crisp words to use. And one last nugget: the brain doesn't necessarily make the difference between if you say something and, you know, if you tell a word, the word has a connotation in and of itself, and your brain might as well ignore the context. And so if I say don't think about the color blue, you're thinking about blue. If I say don't think about an elephant, you're thinking about an elephant. But if I say no problem, you're probably thinking about a problem. And even if you said thank you and I say no problem, now what you're thinking about is a problem. So essentially words have energy, words have a frequency, and so you can be deliberate and you can ask yourself, how does that word, when put in a vacuum, when isolated, how does it make me feel? And is this the kind of word that I want to use in my writing and that I want to use in my description? Because the images, the visual element of what you're writing is going to make your readers feel things, and it's going to put them in certain emotional states, and you have control over that. So you have to be very careful, because your writing always should have a goal, and if you're going to achieve that goal, you need to be able to control how your reader is going to feel. And so that's why you always should be using description, and you should be very deliberate and very meticulous about the description that you use.